Good evening. They were both skilled pilots with years of experience between them. Tonight, their friends have said that skill may have helped avoid an even bigger disaster in Leicester. Eric Swaffer and his co-pilot and partner, Izabela Lechowicz, both died in the crash, which also killed the owner of Leicester City Football Club. They lived together in Surrey and had flown around the world together. But on Saturday, their helicopter crashed in an empty car park, miraculously avoiding any people on the ground. Our correspondent Simon Harris reports.
Izabela Lechowicz and Eric Swaffer in their element, living their dream. From their home at Camberley in Surrey, they travelled the world. Here they're flying a jet from Singapore to South Africa. Captain Swaffer had thousands of flying hours in his logbook on planes and helicopters.
He'd met his soulmate, a wonderful girl, Izabela, who'd become a pilot, and then the pair of them were just flying the globe for private clients, going to remote islands, going to Royal Ascot, and they were just living the most wonderful life. And it was basically like an aviation love story. It was almost unbelievable, like they were living their own movie.
It's not clear which of them was at the controls on Saturday night when the helicopter got airborne from Leicester City's King Power Stadium. Just moments after takeoff, the aircraft fell from the sky and exploded on impact with the ground. Air crash investigators have found the aircraft's black box flight recorder and will spend the next few days looking at the wreckage for any clues to what went wrong. When Nayan Hirani was a schoolboy, Eric Swaffer played a big part in encouraging him to become a pilot. Today he's an airline captain.
Knowing Eric, he would have probably instinctively reacted the way he should have reacted. He would have immediately tried to take control of the helicopter. As the reports say that they witnessed the helicopter being steered away from a crowd, no doubt that would have been instinct in Eric to minimise damage and stay calm and deal with that situation.
Captain Swaffer was Leicester City's regular pilot. This YouTube video from a few years ago shows him bound for Battersea Heliport. That's where he went on Saturday to pick up the club's owner before heading for the stadium in Leicester. His job as a high-flying aerial chauffeur for VIPs and celebrities also brought him into contact with the Dalai Lama and Uri Geller.
The minute I heard of the accident, I immediately called him because it went on the news like minutes after the crash. And he didn't answer the phone, and I just knew it intuitively that something devastating happened. Then I WhatsApped him, and I was praying for that second tick to come up on the WhatsApp window, on the WhatsApp icon, but it never came.
When Izabela Lechowicz met Eric Swaffer, she quickly embraced his passion for flying. They were a couple who lived together and worked together, and tragically on Saturday lost their lives with 3 others.
Simon, still early days in the investigation, but will we ever find out what caused this crash?
Well, air crash investigations usually take many months. Later this week, the wreckage will be moved to Farnborough, where it will be examined in detail along with maintenance records. We know that the flight data recorder has been recovered. There might be a cockpit voice recorder, but the intense fire has caused extensive damage to the wreckage, and that will make the investigation even more difficult. CCTV footage from nearby and eyewitness accounts suggest and show that the helicopter was rotating or spinning as it came to the ground, which might indicate a malfunction by the tail rotor, but at the moment that is speculation. This is the first crash involving an Augusta 169, a fairly modern helicopter. So if investigators discover something that needs to be brought to the attention of other helicopter operators urgently, we might learn sooner what was behind the crash. But typically, these investigations, which are very meticulous, take more than a year.
All right, Simon, in the weeks and months, we will learn more. Thank you. Good evening. From its laboratory in North London, ITH Pharma supplies specialised food and medicines to hospitals all around the country, but today it was charged by police investigating the deaths of 3 babies who were given an allegedly contaminated batch of drip feed 4 years ago. 2 of them died at St Thomas's Hospital in London, the other in Cambridge, while 20 more babies fell ill. The company faces 7 charges in all and said today it will vigorously defend itself in court. Our correspondent Simon Harris has the latest.
You do, and you have...
Abdul Ilah Al-Kabush has no idea he's one of twins. He can't remember his brother Yusuf, who died when they were just 9 days old. At 4, he's too young to be told what happened, too young to understand. But his father will never forget the way his baby son died from blood poisoning in a hospital intensive care unit.
The most difficult time of my life, my entire life, is when I looked at Yusuf's eyes and he's looking at me as if he's saying, please do something, help me, and I'm helpless and I can't do anything about it.
Yusuf and Abdulillah were born premature at St Thomas's and were moved into intensive care. Yusuf's death was quickly linked to a nutrient used to feed premature babies. It was supplied by a pharmaceutical firm, ITH Pharma, based in the North London suburb of Harlesden. Now, 4 years later, the firm has been charged with 7 offences involving 7 babies. Yusuf was one of 3 to die. The company is accused of supplying a poor quality medical product and of failing to take reasonable steps to ensure the babies weren't infected. Some of the families were hoping the company would be charged with corporate manslaughter.
The family are obviously very disappointed with the charges that have been brought when they feel that there were more serious charges that could have been brought, particularly to reflect the seriousness of the number of children affected at the time and Yusuf's death.
Today, ITH Pharma released a statement saying, as founders of ITH, we have every sympathy for all the families affected, regardless of the cause. However, we are disappointed by the decision to charge the company and will vigorously defend this case. For Yusuf's parents, Abdulillah is a constant and painful reminder of how their beloved son should be one of 2 boisterous young boys.
Unfortunately, every birthday of Abdulillah is a sad day instead of being a happy day, because you remember at that time you should have had a brother with you, and especially the mother. I mean, she gets devastated every day, starting from the morning until late at night. She's in tears.
The first hearing in the case against ITH Pharma is due to be heard at Westminster Magistrates Court in December. Simon Harris, ITV News, Harlesden.
For weeks, there's been speculation about when the Mayor was told about delays to the Crossrail project. Tonight, the chair of the London Assembly Transport Committee has again questioned Sadiq Khan's claim that he only found out about the 9-month hold-up 2 days before the rest of us. But does all this matter? Because it could mean politicians, taxpayers and even the London Stock Exchange were misled about the progress of Europe's largest infrastructure project. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has the latest developments.
Mayor of London isn't Sadiq Khan's only title. He's also chair of Transport for London, and the delay to Crossrail has angered him. But questions have been asked about when he knew the royal opening on December the 9th wouldn't happen. He says he was only told days before the public.
Well, the first time I knew there's going to be the long delay for Crossrail opening, the central section, autumn 2019, was towards the end of August. Not until towards the end of August were we told.
So what did the Mayor mean when he said this at Transport for London's board meeting last week?
You'll be aware we've been given information in the past, most recently in June, July, about the additional time that we've taken and the cost.
City Hall says the Mayor's use of June and July rather than August was a reference to a government cash injection of £590 million, which was discussed in June and announced in July. The London Assembly isn't satisfied with the Mayor's account.
I don't think it's believable that the Mayor of London would not have been briefed that this project was behind time and overspent. And the idea that he's kept to this line, that the end of August was when he first knew, it's unbelievable and just shows he's not on top of the job.
Perhaps more seriously, questions have been raised about whether Transport for London broke city rules by concealing the likelihood of a delayed opening. TfL has a legal duty to tell the stock exchange about any significant changes which might have an impact on its finances. But according to the London Assembly, when TfL notified the stock exchange about the government bailout to Crossrail, no mention was made about the postponement to the December opening or the loss of income from fares. The Assembly has raised the matter in a letter to the Financial Conduct Authority, and the FCA has replied, "We are aware of and are reviewing the issues referred to in your letter with a view to determining whether it is appropriate for us to exercise any of our statutory powers."
It's very difficult to know from the outside what the FCA are thinking, but clearly they are under an obligation to investigate this, and if they think there is more that they need to find out, they will launch a formal investigation. Whether we find out about that formal investigation is another thing, because usually they don't publicly comment until they've actually come to a conclusion.
Last week, Crossrail got another bailout to the tune of £350 million. and we still don't know the final bill or when it will open.
Simon, are any officials prepared to say what they knew and when?
Piecing together what's been going on behind the scenes at Crossrail is quite difficult, but bit by bit, details are emerging. We know that the mayor was updated by Crossrail bosses on July the 26th. City Hall has now confirmed that 3 TfL executives were at that meeting, including the Commissioner, Mike Brand. This was around the time that the stock exchange should have been told about the cash bailout from the government. So we've been asking TfL in the last 24 hours, what was said at that meeting? Was the postponed opening mentioned? Was there talk of the royal opening not happening on December the 9th? So far, we've had no response.
OK, Simon, thanks very much.